Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to get into this really powerful idea that comes from a homily given to some college students. It's this question: what if prayer isn't just something you do, but something you actually become? It's a total game changer, so let's dive right in. So the source we're looking at today kicks things off with a huge, and I mean huge, question, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. Because the answer, at least according to this homily, really hinges on whether we can build a very specific kind of prayerful life.
And, let's just be real for a second. That can sound like a pretty tall order, right? I think for a lot of us, prayer can feel, kind of tricky, maybe a little awkward, or even just plain frustrating sometimes. It's such a common feeling. So if you've ever been there, trust me, you are not alone. I mean, these kinds of doubts can seriously get in the way. You start wondering, am I even saying the right thing? Or is anyone actually listening to this? That fear that you're just talking into the void. And then there's the big one, just trying to find the time in our crazy busy lives. These are absolutely real obstacles, but the good news is, our source today points to a way through them.
Okay, so how do we start to tackle all that? Well, this homily suggests that the whole journey starts with Scripture. But, and this is a big but, it's not about just reading it like it's some old textbook. Nope, it's about engaging with it, treating it as the foundation for a real, actual two-way conversation, a place where you can have a genuine encounter.
So how do you even begin a conversation like that? Well, the homily points us to this really powerful ancient practice. It's called Lectio Divina, which basically means divine reading. And the whole point here isn't to just speed read and cram information. It's the total opposite. It's all about slowing way, way down, creating that space to actually listen for what the words might be saying directly to you.
And what's so great about this is just how simple and practical it is. It's really just 4 steps. First, you read, slowly. Just let the words sink in. Then you meditate on it. Use your imagination, picture the scene. After that, you respond. You pray with your own words, whatever comes to your heart. And last, you just rest. You contemplate. It's this beautiful process that takes reading from just being passive to being this active, living dialogue.
And it's this practice, this idea of dialogue, that really brings us to the absolute core of the homily. See, the goal isn't just to get better at the action of praying. It's about cultivating a constant, ongoing disposition of prayer. And that, right there, is a massive shift in how we think about this.
This comparison here just lays it out so perfectly. On one side, you've got prayer as an activity. It's something you do at set times, maybe you check it off a list. It's kind of walled off from the rest of your life. But then look at the other side, prayer as a disposition. It's not an item on your to-do list, it's a state of being that you live in. It's woven into every single moment, all driven by this constant awareness of God's presence.
And this leads us to this key idea, persistent prayerfulness. I love this. The homily gives us this perfect modern analogy for it. Think of it like an app that's always running in the background on your phone. You don't always see it, but it's always on, always connected. And it's quietly shaping your thoughts and how you react to things all day long. Okay, let's make this super practical. Picture this. You're driving, and someone just totally cuts you off in traffic. Without this prayerful disposition, what's the default reaction? For most of us, it's probably anger, right? Frustration. But what if you have that prayer app running in the background? Well, your soul sees something totally different. Instead of road rage, you get this little nudge to pray for that person. You start wondering, man, what's going on in their life that's making them in such a hurry? It completely 100% reframes the whole experience.
And get this disposition doesn't just turn off when you go to sleep. The homily suggests that this prayerful state can actually keep going even when you're resting. It can bring you peace, maybe even protect you from bad dreams, and it turns your sleep itself into another way of connecting with God. How cool is that? So this brings us to another really key shift in our thinking. If prayer is this constant state we're living in, then it has to be a real conversation, right? And what does any good conversation need? It's not just about talking. It's about listening, deep, intentional listening.
There's this quote from the theologian Hans Urs von Balthasar that is just wow, it's so powerful. He basically says that our prayers, they're never the start of the conversation. Think about that. All our words, all our thoughts, even our clumsy stammering, it's all just a response. A response to God who already spoke first, who already reached out to us.
So what does that actually mean for us then? It flips everything on its head. It means our most important job in prayer isn't actually to talk, it's to become a listener. It's about getting quiet enough to hear the word that's already been spoken into all of creation, into Scripture, and right into our own hearts.
All right, so what's the end game here? What's the payoff for all this? Why does developing this disposition even matter? Well, according to the homily, the results are, well, they're completely transformative. It doesn't just change your inner world, it changes what you do on the outside, too. When you start living in this state, you finally break free from that whole now I'm praying, now I'm not cycle. You just naturally become more sensitive to what other people are going through. You start to hear God's voice, that quiet guidance, a lot more clearly. And that shows you how and where you can help, how you can serve. And maybe best of all, it helps build a real community of faith where you're all supporting and praying for each other in a much more immediate, powerful way.
And that right there brings us all the way back to the beginning. This life of persistent prayerfulness, this ongoing conversation, that is the fire of faith. That is the answer to that massive question we started with. It's that living, breathing kind of faith that Jesus is hoping to find.
So, we want to leave you with this one final thought to chew on. What would change for you? In your daily life, on your commute, at your job, in your relationships, what would change if you started seeing every single moment not just as another task to get through, but as part of a conversation that never ends? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us.